Hey fellow Vault Dwellers, it's Angry Turtle, and today I will try to answer your question. Human versus Ghoul. What should you pick? Which one is doing more damage? I will not be able to dive deep into every possible scenario, as there are so many differences between human characters and Ghoul characters, but I will cover the most important, like damage, for example, farming the Guardian as well. Some of you were asking for the Guardian Farmer build optimized for everything that you can do. So I will show you that here as well. Maybe let's even start with Guardian aspect, as a lot of people is farming it for the 4 stars. That's the only thing you can farm solo for the 4 stars. That's why it's so popular. Now, let me put my helmet back on. I just took it off to show that I'm the Ghoul. So what I'm using, that slightly modified variant of Guardian Farmer that I did for humans. Mostly, idea is the same. The stuff is the same for the most part, with exception of some Ghoul specific, like you can utilize Science Monster in here to get some extra damage. I do have Science perk card. That's the same as everywhere. Science Monster is good. There are some perks that can consume glow and give you some extra damage, but they do consume glow really fast, and that's extra management. If I would like to use it, they do work, but the extra management that it does it take to use Mad Scientist for me, I decided it's not worth it. On the Guardian, when all the damage ramps up, that's about 200 damage extra per hit, which is a little bit more, but not impactful. We are talking about 6,000 range and then getting 200 extra, so it's not a lot, really. It's not a lot. Most of the stuff is the same. So you may see the Ricochet will still rely on that. The faulty spots, this one, that's a secret power of the Ghoul. Faulty spots is equivalent to Nerd Rage in human, when faulty spots is indeed, in most case scenario, when you can hit a weak spot stronger than Nerd Rage. So on human we are running Nerd Rage. Nerd Rage to increase our damage when fighting Guardian, and that was giving us about 50% damage increase. But additive. In case of Ghoul, we have faulty spots with a 15% damage increase, but multiplicative, which is more than 50%, because, you know, Bethesda math and perks calculating differently. So yes, this one is stronger. Then, of course, advantage of being a Ghoul, we have a secondary glowing bar in here. Secondary glowing bar, and we don't need to play low health at all. We can play full health. Does it make a lot of difference? It's just a different playstyle. You will die definitely way less. You don't need stim packs, really. And now let's start from the Ghoul, and then I will replay the clip when I was farming as a human, so you can see the damage difference. As well, what I did notice, and I switched to first person, that's working better for me to place myself in the right spot. What I did notice here, to make sure that the damage, the shield will be registering as it's supposed to be, I'm targeting it in VATS first when it's emerging and switching to the torso. Then I switch it off. When he starts firing at me, I pop 3 bottles of toxic goo to compensate for the damage taken. 3 bottles toxic goo. Now we are targeting the shield and firing at it. Now we are switching the weapon. A little bit more toxic goo, so the Science Monster will work. Science Monster does require you to have some glow. And as that, it's dead. Don't really look at the time left in combat. This Guardian doesn't always emerge with the same speed. I notice my time left vary from like 45 to 52, 53 seconds. So it's not always the same, but the reason for that is the Guardian is sometimes taking way longer to emerge. So this is the damage as a Ghoul. Now as a reminder, clip from a human, pay attention to damage. Blooded build, I have emergency protocols, full set of troubleshooters. With some stim packs, I can tank it up close in here. I need to be close so I can hit it with Enclave Plasma. I wait until it fires at me. I apply Stimpaks, and then Ricochet and VATS to target. Accidentally fire at the torso, but look at the amount of the limb damage. And it's already crippled. I'm taking this plasma and continue. That's incredibly fast. The speed calls it to take all the... And as you can see, the damage as a ghoul is indeed slightly higher without adding any of the glow consuming perks, just the stable ones. So what we have here is the science monster. You do need to have a glow and it works for 10 seconds, so that's perfectly fine. The whole fight takes less, so it's perfectly fine. And then we do have faulty spots, and those both together, that's where our power comes from. Everything else is basically the same. That's what our power comes from. Then specific case scenario when you would go like a feral ghoul, melee will be absolutely dominated by the feral ghoul, as you will get a huge bonus to melee when you go feral that human do not have. So whatever melee is, conventional, automatic, you run with automatic, if you want any of those, feral ghoul is absolute number one. Even though human can have unyielding armor, the feral aspect is more than unyielding can give you, so feral will dominate. You cannot really play low health efficiently as a ghoul, so unyielding armor is quite a big no. About some of the downsides, the health, and as long as the stat log bug is present, that sometimes starts acting up, and my health tends to drain way lower than it's supposed to, so I have less health, less glow. Hoping the server absolutely fixes that, and if you remember about the fix when you load into the fresh world, for most part you will be absolutely fine and good. But if you don't do any of that, if you don't know about the stat log, that can affect you very negatively when you are playing a ghoul. So that's what you need to know. So the main difference, ghoul is more damage than a human, even when we are comparing to bloodied human build, because Furious is a dominant prefix, so you don't need bloodied. For boss fights, Furious is a dominant prefix, which we just tested recently. It keeps dominating, it's absolute number one. Therefore, that stays. That the low health aspect is no longer as important as it was in the past. Plus, mutation adrenal reaction is now a kill streak bonus damage, not the health related bonus damage, so you don't really need to be low health to benefit from adrenal reaction. Therefore, now with the latest patch, for damage, absolutely ghoul is number one. And we are not even talking about outliers, like when you can utilize the ghoul specific perks that currently still work very well, let's say with the Shredder. I will revisit Shredder, overall number one damage build as long as it lasts. So radioactive strength, this is amazing for power attacks with regular weapons, and bashing doesn't work with automatic melee, but bashing, you know, minigun Shredder is bashing. So that's exception. I hope minigun Shredder will have its glorious time for a little bit longer. Therefore, ghoul in here, different playstyle. You go full health. You manage your radiation as your second bar. Then you need to deal with the feral meter. How do you deal with the feral meter is up to you. There is a legendary perk that can be used, but there's even easier way. I know you say addictions, but there is simple way to avoid addictions. Look at that. Radex, 6% feral. Radex diluted, 5% feral. And you say, but Radex suppresses mutations. Yeah, that's the thing. After you pop a bunch of Radex, you then pop Radex diluted, and mutations are all working again. You only suffer a little bit of rat resist. Yes, as a ghoul, you do suffer as a rat resist. It's not good. But that's just 100 for 10 minutes, and then it disappears. And now I'm wonderful 100%. And those Radexes diluted are dropping everywhere. So it's abundant. So it's not really hard to manage. It's, in my opinion, way easier than managing food bar and water bar. That is faster, and it drops slowly. To drop from 100% to 0 when you become feral, that takes about 3 hours. So you do have time. You can still benefit from all the food. About other question, if you go from human to ghoul while you are a megavore like me now, carnivore, herbivore, you retain the megavore status. So, well, ghoul cannot have any diseases, so you can eat whatever you want. You will not get any diseases. And ghoul do not really need star genes. So there is a lot of disabled perks, the good ones, the good perks that do not work, but you do not need to use star genes because you don't use radaways, so you will never remove your mutations, and ghouls cannot obtain mutations from environment. At least they shouldn't. If you do, that's a bug. So you shouldn't be able to obtain mutations from environment. And that, in summary, is quick description difference between ghoul and human with small edge towards ghouls. Yes, ghouls are stronger, do more damage, and are much more tanky. The management of the feral bar is super easy, easier than a food bar. And the downside for being a ghoul, you cannot use unyielding armor, therefore you will not get crazy high special. Your special will not go as high as humans, but it's still high. There is one card that compensates a little bit. It's equivalent to one piece of unyielding that ghouls can have as long as there is other ghoul on a team. So those are the differences. Now, what's your choice? Which one do you prefer? Do you like to play as a ghoul or as a human? Let me know. And now, as always, thank you all for watching and see you all in the next one.